Water does not disappear quietly. It fails in layers. First, pressure drops. Then boil advisories begin. Then chlorine residuals fall below detection. Then hospitals activate contingency storage. And by the time the public recognizes that something is wrong, the system has already been running on borrowed time. The collapse of a water supply chain does not look like a cinematic explosion. It looks like confusion at faucets, empty shelves of bottled water, and a slow, invisible rise in microbial load. The danger is not thirst in the first 24 hours. The danger is contamination in the first 72. Because when centralized treatment falters, the most lethal threat is not dehydration. It is biology. Modern municipal water systems depend on an uninterrupted chain of chemical inputs, mechanical integrity, electrical continuity, and trained operators. Coagulants such as aluminum sulfate or ferric chloride must arrive by truck or rail. Chlorine or chloramine must be continuously dosed. Filters must be backwashed. Pumps must be powered. Sensors must transmit data. When any link in that chain breaks, purification efficiency begins to degrade long before taps run dry. The misunderstanding most people carry is that water infrastructure fails suddenly and completely. In reality, it decays incrementally. Turbidity increases slightly. Disinfection contact time decreases subtly. Residual disinfectant falls just below regulatory thresholds. The water still looks clear. It still tastes normal. But pathogenic risk rises quietly, exponentially. The hidden science begins with microbial growth curves. Bacteria and protozoa do not increase linearly. They multiply logarithmically under favorable conditions. If disinfection residual drops even marginally, heterotrophic bacteria in distribution pipes can rebound within hours. Biofilms lining the inner walls of aging pipes provide shelter against low-level chlorine exposure. Once the disinfectant concentration falls below about 0.2 mg per liter in many systems, microbial suppression weakens significantly. Add a temperature rise, such as during summer months, and replication accelerates further. In 2014, when the water crisis struck Flint, Michigan, corrosion control failures allowed lead to leach into drinking water, but what received less public attention was the simultaneous shift in microbial ecology inside the distribution system. Changes in water chemistry altered biofilm stability. Opportunistic pathogens found opportunity. Evidence from disaster zones repeatedly confirms this pattern. After Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico in 2017, widespread power outages compromised treatment plants. Studies conducted in the months following revealed increased bacterial contamination in certain community water systems where chlorine residual could not be maintained consistently. In 2021, during the winter freeze in Texas, treatment plants lost power, pipes burst, and boil water notices were issued for millions. The water itself was not instantly toxic, but the infrastructure that ensured its safety had been compromised. The delay between infrastructure stress and biological consequence is the window where preparedness determines survival. The survival implication is stark. Waiting for official collapse announcements is too late. Household-level purification must begin at the first signal of system instability. But here lies another misunderstanding. Many assume that any filtration device labeled water filter provides safety. This is incorrect. Most consumer-grade pitcher filters remove taste, odor, and some heavy metals, but they do not reliably eliminate viruses or all bacteria. Filtration is governed by pore size, adsorption chemistry, and flow rate. Viruses such as norovirus measure roughly 27 nanometers. Standard carbon block filters do not physically exclude particles that small. Only systems rated for viral removal, such as those using ultrafiltration membranes with pore sizes below 0.02 microns, or combined with chemical disinfection, provide comprehensive protection. Hidden within this technical detail is a more important principle: redundancy. Real purification requires multiple barriers. Municipal systems use coagulation to clump fine particles, sedimentation to settle them, filtration to remove remaining turbidity, and chemical disinfection to inactivate microorganisms. Each layer compensates for imperfections in the previous one. At the household scale, the same multi-barrier approach applies. Pre-filtration through cloth or sediment filters removes particulates. Fine membrane filtration removes bacteria and protozoa. Chemical disinfection or boiling inactivates viruses. Skipping layers increases risk. The idea that a single step is sufficient arises from marketing simplicity, not microbiological reality. Scientific studies consistently demonstrate that boiling remains one of the most reliable emergency disinfection methods. Bringing water to a rolling boil for 1 minute at sea level, or 3 minutes at higher elevations, inactivates bacteria, viruses, and protozoan cysts by denaturing proteins and disrupting structural integrity. The energy input required is substantial, and fuel may become scarce during supply chain disruption. This is why fuel planning is as critical as filter selection. Boiling 5 liters of water per day for a family requires more fuel than most households estimate. Underestimating energy needs can render the most reliable method unusable. Chemical disinfection, such as with sodium hypochlorite solutions, introduces another hidden layer of science. Household bleach, when unscented and containing 5 to 6% sodium hypochlorite, can be dosed at approximately 8 drops per gallon of clear water to achieve a free chlorine concentration sufficient for viral inactivation, assuming at least 30 minutes of contact time. But concentration degrades over time, especially when stored in warm conditions. Bleach loses potency at roughly 20% per year under ideal storage, and faster when exposed to heat. Using degraded bleach produces a false sense of security. The only reliable method is either to rotate stock regularly or to use chlorine test strips to confirm residual levels. Evidence from emergency management agencies underscores that water needs exceed drinking alone. The average adult requires at minimum 2 to 3 liters per day for hydration under temperate conditions, but sanitation demands often double that amount. Hand hygiene, cooking, and minimal cleaning quickly consume stored supplies. During crises, gastrointestinal illness from contaminated water can cause rapid dehydration, especially in children and the elderly. Diarrheal diseases remain a leading cause of death in humanitarian emergencies globally, not because water is absent, but because it is unsafe. The escalation point arrives when distribution systems depressurize. Once pressure drops below approximately 20 psi, backflow can occur. Contaminants from soil, groundwater, or damaged plumbing can be drawn into the pipes. Cross-connections, illegal or outdated plumbing links between potable and non-potable systems, become pathways for contamination. Even if treatment plants restore operation later, the distribution network itself may require flushing and rechlorination to re-establish safety. This is why boil water advisories often persist days after repairs appear complete. The network must be biologically reset. The transition from centralized reliability to decentralized responsibility requires a shift in mindset. Water is not just a commodity delivered through pipes. It is a biological medium that demands continuous management. Preparedness does not mean hoarding bottled water exclusively. Plastic bottles degrade under heat, leach chemicals over time, and represent a finite reserve. Real resilience means understanding treatment principles, maintaining equipment, storing chemicals correctly, and planning energy supply. But the threat does not stop at microbes. When supply chains fracture, chemical contamination risk increases as well. Industrial facilities may lose power, wastewater systems may overflow, and storm events may mobilize pollutants into surface water sources. Activated carbon filtration can absorb many organic compounds, but capacity is finite and dependent on contact time. Breakthrough occurs when adsorption sites are saturated. Without monitoring, a carbon filter can appear functional while allowing contaminants to pass through. Professional systems track pressure differentials and scheduled replacement intervals. Households rarely do. The overlooked science here is adsorption kinetics. The rate at which contaminants bind to carbon depends on concentration, temperature, and flow speed. High flow reduces contact time, decreasing removal efficiency. Pour-through filters often prioritize convenience over optimal contact duration. Slower gravity-fed systems with larger carbon volumes generally provide better adsorption performance. Yet users frequently modify systems for speed, unintentionally sacrificing safety. In crisis conditions, patience becomes a protective factor. There is also the issue of turbidity. Cloudy water interferes with disinfection. Suspended particles shield microorganisms from chlorine exposure and reduce ultraviolet penetration if UV systems are used. Emergency guidelines consistently stress pre-filtering turbid water before chemical treatment. The misunderstanding that chlorine alone can fix muddy water ignores this shielding effect. During flooding events, surface water turbidity can increase dramatically, carrying not only silt but agricultural runoff containing nitrates and pathogens from livestock operations. Evidence from global disaster responses shows that integrated water treatment units deployed by humanitarian organizations combine sedimentation tanks, rapid sand filters, and chlorination in sequence. They do not rely on a single intervention. The same engineering logic scales down to individual survival planning. Multiple small, reliable steps outperform one sophisticated but fragile device. As supply chains strain, replacement cartridges, spare parts, and fuel become scarce. A purification system without replacement filters eventually becomes a liability. Membranes foul. O-rings degrade. Pumps fail. Mechanical simplicity is a strategic advantage. Gravity-fed ceramic filters, for example, can be manually scrubbed to restore flow when clogged by sediment. Their pore sizes, typically around 0.2 microns, effectively remove bacteria and protozoa but not viruses, reinforcing again the need for combined chemical treatment. Understanding the limitations of each technology prevents overconfidence. The final overlooked principle in early-stage water system instability is time. Pathogen exposure does not guarantee immediate symptoms. Incubation periods vary. Norovirus may cause illness within 12 to 48 hours. Giardia may take 1 to 2 weeks. This delay obscures cause and effect. By the time illness appears, contaminated consumption may have occurred repeatedly. Preventative action must precede visible consequence. When infrastructure falters, those who recognize the early indicators, pressure fluctuation, taste changes, public advisories, boil notices, must shift immediately to layered purification. Waiting for confirmation wastes the only margin that exists between system stress and biological hazard. Water safety is not binary. It is a gradient that steepens quickly when neglected. And the most dangerous phase is not the total collapse everyone imagines. It is the partial failure that looks manageable on the surface. Because during that phase, complacency spreads faster than contamination. Complacency thrives in partial failure because the tap still runs, the clarity still reassures, and official messaging often emphasizes control while technicians race to stabilize complex systems behind the scenes. The danger intensifies precisely when uncertainty replaces certainty but routine behavior continues unchanged. In that gap, pathogens exploit hesitation. Analysis of infrastructure breakdowns